There we are. So welcome everyone to tonight's Women's Beit Midrash program. Can everyone hear me okay? Yep, okay. So tonight we're lucky to be rejoined by Professor Smadar Rosensweig, who will speak to us on the topic Hanukkah, Radiating Inner Light Onward. She is a professor of Bible at Stern College for Women at Yeshiva University, as well as a professor of biblical studies at Allegra Franco Sephardic Women's Teachers College. Previously, she was a professor of Judaic Studies and History at Touro College. Ms. Rosensweig received a master's degree in philosophy and a master's degree in arts from Columbia University. She gives shiurim and lectures throughout the metropolitan area and across the country. The shiur tonight is brought to you by our sponsors, Rivki and Yaakov Maradi, in memory of Yaakov's mother, Chana Bat Miriam, and Nancy Staum, in memory of Smadar's father, Rabbi Dr. David Eliach, I hope I pronounced that right, who she had the zchut to have as a teacher and principal at the Yeshiva of Flatbush. Friends, Deborah and Aaron Bassin, in memory of Deborah's mother, Leah Handler, Leah Bat David Chai HaKohen. The shiur is also being sponsored Li'oloi Nishmat Rela Bat Shlomo. Thank you very much to everyone who helped support tonight's event. And without further ado, I give you Professor Rosensweig.
Hi, it's really so special to be here this evening, especially when I am really coming off of the very recent patira of my father, Rabbi Dr. David Eliach, who really was such a pillar of Jewish education and the Jewish community in so many ways. And I'm gratified, people are putting on the chat, I'm gratified to see that here in West Orange, there are several people who were connected to Flatbush, went to Flatbush, and really valued their education that they had there and my father's influence. So I'm very, very touched with all of the sponsors for their families, and also that this is in honor, in memory of my father as well. It's still hard for me to say in memory. It's really very raw and very recent. Our question for tonight is, why is Hanukkah so compelling? What is so special about Hanukkah? It's really a celebration, but it is really officiated by the rabbis, the Rabbanan. It's not in the Torah. It's really after the time of the Torah. It's initiated and instituted by the Chachamim. And the question is, what is special about Hanukkah? Why does it really resonate with us so much that even many individuals celebrate Hanukkah when they're not even connected so much to Judaism? Okay, everyone gives the answer that there's also another holiday around this time, and maybe that is a little bit of an impetus, but not really. There's something special about Hanukkah, and what I would really like to speak about Hanukkah tonight is the idea of the light. What is that special element of the light on Hanukkah, the fire of Hanukkah, lighting the menorah, the symbolism of it, the significance of it? My mother has one of her most famous stories in Hasidic tales of the Holocaust, that the Bluzhever Rebbe in Bergen-Belsen takes a clog and he puts shoe polish in it, and he takes the thread of a concentration camp uniform and lights the menorah and says all three special brachos even on the first night. Even though they're living in a terrible time, no miracles were happening to them there, at least outward miracles. And how could they say that they're so happy to come to that day? And yet Hanukkah was celebrated. So what is it about Hanukkah that has this message? And in the dark days of winter, and we just changed the clock, we know what that feels like. What is special about the light of Hanukkah? So what I'd like to do, I'm going to share screen, and I would like to focus on the Mekorot, on the sources, in order for us to really get a sense of the actual sources in the Gemara that quotes the Breitot, the ideas that we have in halacha, what is Hanukkah about? So let me share screen, and we are going to take this journey together. Here we are. I hope everyone sees it, because you'll really appreciate the shiur so much more if you have the sources. And what is learning about? Learning is not only for us telling stories and ideas, but also to see the mikorot. That's how our Menorah is really handed down. The text, the ideas, even Torah Sheba'al Peh, the oral law, has been written down. So here we go. We're doing source number one. One of the first places that we learn about Hanukkah and what to do is in the Gemara, and it's in the Talmud Bavli. It's in the Gemara, the Talmud Bavli, in Masechet Shabbat, Daf Kaf Aleph Amud Bet. We don't have a Masechet on Hanukkah. We have on Megillah, we have for Purim, but we don't have a separate section in the Mishnah or the Gemara on Hanukkah. It's all included in the part about Shabbat. Because what is similar between Shabbat and Hanukkah? The light, the candles, the fire. So that already lets us understand that one of the most important elements that we will experience and that is important about Hanukkah is the fire, is the light. But it's going to be very different than Shabbat candles, and we will discuss that. Tanu Rabbanan, and I did all the sources with English, so you'll have it with the Hebrew. So those who want to look at the English, even though I will translate, will be able to see both parts of the sources. Tanu Rabbanan. Our Chachamim taught. And what does Tanu Rabbanan mean? It means we are now learning a Mishnah. So the Gemara is quoting a Mishnah. Mitzvat Chanukah ner ish ubeito. The most basic halacha of Chanukah is just a candle for the whole house. What's already telling us is that the house is the main place for Chanukah. Chanukah is a celebration of the home. Chanukah is about bringing light and lighting fire, candles in the home. And that's the most basic idea of Chanukah. Ner ish ubeito. A candle for the person in the house and his home. So a candle for the person and their home. What is the concept here? That the individual in the home lights a candle and one fire is enough to radiate light in the whole house. And that's the most basic way to fulfill Chanukah. My mother always signed her books. Me'at or doche harbe choshech. A little light chases away a lot of darkness. One candle is enough. And one candle lit in the home already dispels the darkness. That's the most basic thing of Chanukah. If you light one candle every single night, you did your job. But the Gemara goes on, meaning the Mishnah that the Gemara is quoting, and says, Ba'mahadrin, and if you want to do this on a better level, a higher level, a hidur mitzvah level, then it's ner l'chol echad ve'echad. You light a candle for every single member of the family. Usually we don't have holidays and mitzvot that increment in this way. Usually, if you are buying an etrog, you buy a nicer etrog, but you don't do more etrogim. If you wear tzitzit, you only can have the 4 fringes that have the special kind of numbers of the fringes. You don't add more. That's considered bal tosif. So usually hidur mitzvah means that we make it better, more expensive, prettier. But here with Chanukah, more fire, more light is better, but it has to connect to the people in the home. So what is Mahadrin? Ner l'chol echad ve'echad. Every person in the home is represented by a candle, which means on the first night of Hanukkah, if you have 4 members in your family, you light 4 candles. On the second night, 4 candles. Third night, 4 candles. It always goes according to the people in the house. Light is representing the people and the home. So the people play a very important role. But we have a third level. We don't have this in any other holiday or halacha, that we have so many different levels. Usually, there's the basic level, which is the minimum that everyone has to do. And then everyone picks what's better. More money I spend on it. More hours I spend on it. I make a prettier sukkah. But there's no level that, oh, if you spend $50, it's this. And then if you spend $100, it's this. It's the basic and the deluxe model. But in Hanukkah, we have 3 different levels that are already imprinted into the halacha. And the third level is Mahadrin mina Mahadrin. And what does that mean? Mahadrin mina Mahadrin. Now remember, we started with the principle that the fire always represents the people. The fire, one for the person and the whole household, is enough. A candle for every person in the household, every single night, the same thing, that's already Mahadrin. But there's a debate. We're going to the third level. So what does the third level, Mahadrin and Mahadrin, mean on Chanukah? So Beit Shammai Omrim, I'm continuing in the text. Beit Shammai Omrim, Beit Shammai say, Yom Rishon Madlik Shmona. On the first day, you light 8 candles. Mikan va'elech, and then from then on, pachot v'holech. So the first night would be 8 candles. The second night would be 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. You're counting down. Like if you had a calendar and you have this special event coming, you're starting with the bigger number and you're counting down. Beit Hillel say, no, just the opposite. Beit Hillel say, no, Yom Rishon Madlik Achat. On the first day, you light 1, and then every day you light another candle. Beit Hillel and Beit Shammai have a very different view of what Hanukkah candles should be. Are you counting down or are you counting up? In Judaism, in most of the other halachot, like Sfirat HaOmer, counting the Omer, we count up. And there, we're counting towards Matan Torah, towards getting the Torah. And there also, first day, 1, 2, 3, 4, and we end with 49. We could have done, start with 49 and then count down, 1 day left till Matan Torah. But we don't do that because we always want to count higher. We always want to elevate, go up in numbers. So we see this debate. So the Chachamim are asking the question, okay, what is this argument between Beit Shammai and Beit Hillel? What is Beit Shammai even thinking about that he is going to start with 8 and go down? What is motivating Beit Shammai? It's hard for us to think. So what is the view? Tama de Beit Shammai, they're all trying to figure out, okay, what is motivating Beit Shammai to start with 8 and go down? So we do have something to hold a candle to, and that is Keneged Hayamim HaNichnasin, which means we want to say, we have 8 days left, 7 days left, 6 days left, and that's like a countdown. We want to say, and then we have 1 precious day left in the end. That's one view of Beit Shammai's idea, a countdown for the days of Hanukkah that are coming in. Remember, right? This is 2 more days, 1 day left. But Tama de Beit Hillel, say the Chachamim, Keneged Hayamim Hayotzin. What do we really always want to count? The days that passed. The first day passed. Number 2, this is the second day, the third day. Beit Hillel is way more logical. This is the first day, the second day, the third day. And that's why we're counting up, because the last day is the 8th day. We'll have 8 candles, which means Mahadrin mina Mahadrin on one level has to show a changing amount of days. Mahadran min mahadran means movement. Because if we just do mahadran, we're lighting the same amount of candles for all the people in the house. But mahadran min mahadran means movement. For Beit Shammai, it's okay that we're moving down one day left to Hanukkah. For Beit Hillel, no, this is the 8th day of Hanukkah. And that's why we're counting up till we get to the 8th day. So that's one view. They're still puzzled. But why would Beit Shammai even think of starting a countdown? Start with 8 and then go down? It's a little bit of a downer, literally. We don't do that with Sfirat HaOmer. So what could be Beit Hillel's logic? So one other view is to explain what's the logic behind it. Kineged Parei HaChag. It mimics Sukkot. On Sukkot, we start with many sacrifices, and every day we do less and less and less. So we start with 70, and every day we sacrifice less bulls in order to complement what's going on in Sukkot. Why would Beit Shammai, even think of Sukkot as its model for Hanukkah? Because in the books of the Maccabees, it tells us very clearly that the first holiday that they celebrated when they purified the Beit HaMikdash was Sukkot, because they missed Sukkot. And when they purified the Beit HaMikdash, they celebrated Sukkot to make up for the Sukkot that they left. So that is a very important parallel for Hanukkah. We missed Sukkot. We purified the Beit HaMikdash. So we are sacrificing the bulls. That is the metaphor for Hanukkah. To remember that in Beit HaMikdash, that first special holiday that we celebrated after we purified the Beit HaMikdash was Sukkot, a makeup holiday. So now it makes sense to us why Beit Shammai is using Sukkot as its template. But that didn't win the day, not because we don't always go by Beit Shammai. A few times we do. And if Beit Shammai has a very unique idea, we follow it. But Tama de Beit Hillel, what's the reason of Beit Hillel? De ma'alin b'kodesh ve'ein moridin. Whenever we want to do something holy, we always want to go up. We always want to elevate ourselves. We always want to count higher. Sfirat HaOmer, we start with 1 and we end with 49. We don't say one day left to celebrating the Torah. Hanukkah, we start with 1 candle, but we end with 8. Light, more light. So what should the movement, right? We said the basic is 1 candle. Mahadran is a candle for each member of the family, but it's static. As many people who are in the household, you light the same thing every night. But what is the movement? Beit Shammai says, start with a lot and trickle down to what's left. Only 1 day left of the holiday. No, Beit Hillel say, always aim high. Always look to increase your level of spirituality, increase your light, more fire, more light. So it's very interesting for us to see this idea in the Gemara, in the Mishnah that the Gemara quotes. So to us, we understand this importance. We do this. We do Mahadran min Mahadran. And my other point is most halachot and most mitzvot we could do on the most basic level and on a higher level. But almost everybody, as long as they have any kind of money to light candles, do the maximum. Almost everyone does Mahadran min Mahadran. And we'll talk about the different customs. What does it mean, Mahadran min Mahadran? But everyone does Mahadran min Mahadran. Chanukah is that type of holiday where everyone wants to do the most. And it represents the home. We want to do the most light in the home. We want to have the highest spirituality in the home. As we started the class, we said, Hanukkah is about light in the home. Hanukkah is celebrated at home. There's a big question on halacha if you're even allowed to light a menorah, even in shul. And can you say a bracha when you light a menorah in shul? Because it's not someone's home. We do light the menorah in shul, but it's a big question because Hanukkah is about the house. Even those big menorahs that you light in public, in a public square, there's a big question. Can you stay a bracha when you light those menorahs, right? Shouldn't it be the biggest menorah, best menorah ever? It's in the middle of the square. It's in the middle of New York City. It's in the middle of Grand Army Plaza. But no, because Hanukkah is about the home. It's about light radiating out of the home. And we're going to see more details of that. We're doing another Gemara in this same Gemara of Shabbat. Tanu Rabbanan, we're on number 2. Ner mitzvah, and this is our issue. Ner mitzvah lahanichal petach beto mibachutz. You should put your menorah right outside your door. Today, many people have those beautiful boxes where they light the menorah outside. Especially if you go to Israel, those of you who have been in Israel during Hanukkah, they have the special boxes and people light outside. In many communities in America as well, the menorah is put in this special box and it's put right outside the door. Because we're going to see Rashi says, we want everyone to see it. Persume Nisa. So this is also an interesting concept. It represents the home, but we put it right outside the door, ideally, because we want everyone to see the light that we are sharing with the outside, but it has to be connected with your home. Again, the theme of the day, radiating your inner light outward. But if you live in a second floor or a house that has many stories, like in America, apartment houses, where do you light the menorah? And we many times do that even if we live in private homes, because we're afraid of fire and hazard. If you leave fire outside, someone could play with your box, and then it would be sakanat nefashot. It would be endangering your life. So many people also do this minhag. Im dar ba'aliyah, if you live on the second floor or an apartment house, minicha b'chalon smucha l'reshut harabim. You have to put it in a window that the public will see. Let's say you have a backyard and you have windows in the back of your house, but no one will see your candles. You can't put it there. You have to put it where people will see, where the public will see. Again, the idea of persume nisa. It doesn't say it here yet. We're going to see the different views. Ubishata sakana, but let's say it's a time of danger. Minichal shulchano vidayo. You can even light it on your table in your house and no one else sees it because you're afraid. Let's say during the Holocaust, you didn't want to put a Hanukkah menorah in the window because everyone will know you're Jewish and everyone will see, and that endangers your life. So in times of danger, you can even just put it on your table. But what do you have to do? You have to light Hanukkah candles. You can close all the curtains, but you have to light Hanukkah candles, even in your house alone, just for yourself, because it's about the light. It's your light. You are experiencing it and learning, ideally outside. Next, radiating it to the outside. But if not, it radiates to the family. It's about the person and the fire and the home. And what does Rava say? Amar Rava, tzarich ner acheret lehishtamesh laorah. What are Shabbos candles about? Shabbos candles are about light. Using practical light in order to light up the home. We light the Shabbos candles. We have it on the table. We want you to use them because the whole idea of Shabbos candles is to bring light that is useful, that will help you see your food, that will help you get the food to the kitchen and back. We use Shabbos clocks to make sure there's enough light in the house that's usable, because all of that is connected to Nerot Shabbat. You can even, let's say you can't light candles, and we have some elderly individuals who already could not light with matches and can't light. They can use their regular lights of their house for Shabbos candles. But for Hanukkah, you need another candle to use its light. Hanukkah candles are not practical. We don't use them, and that's why you have to have a shamash, and that's why you have to have other light that you use, because it's not practical light. It's not there to be used. It's there to be seen. It's a message. The light of the Hanukkah candles is a message light. It's a spiritual beacon. It's not something to be used. It's so holy. You're not allowed to use it. And that's why many people, there's the minhag in our house, but many people do this. Every time you light Hanukkah candles, and every member of the house sings Hanerot Halalu Kodeshem, that these candles are holy, and we cannot use them. We can only look at them to learn the lesson of what happened so many years ago. Because Hanukkah candles are about messaging, about education, about radiating light, about letting us understand our potential for light and our understanding of what history is telling us. And then we not only see this light, but that messages for us of how we behave, of what are our actions. Look at number 3. Again, still, we're doing the Gemaras. My Hanukkah. We're coming to that question. So what is Hanukkah? Why do we light these candles? What's so special about Hanukkah that we have these candles, we don't use them, right? So the Gemara is going in logical order. Ditanu Rabbanan. Again, it's always going back to the earlier rabbis in the Mishnah. These are Breitot. So what is Hanukkah? So why are we so careful about these lights? Why do we want movement? Why do we want Mahadran min Mahadran? So you understand how the discussion is going. We're first speaking about the practical laws, but now we have to speak, if Hanukkah candles, we learn the laws, but message. What is the message of Hanukkah? Ditanu Rabbanan. So what is the message? The rabbis taught, Bekafei Bekislev, Yomei de Hanukkah Temna Inun. Okay, we have 8 days of Hanukkah. 8 days of Hanukkah. What can't you do in Hanukkah? We're continuing with our halacha. You can't have a misped, a hesped. You can't give a hesped on Hanukkah. So if someone passes away on Hanukkah, you can't give a hesped. My mother-in-law passed away on Hanukkah, and it just so happened that her funeral was on Rosh Chodesh. So not only did she pass away on Hanukkah, the funeral was on Rosh Chodesh. And we did not have a hesped for her because on Hanukkah, a special joyous day, we don't make hespedim about the people who passed away. You can't have a hesped, v'lo lihitanot bahon, and you can't fast. So Hanukkah is a special day that we don't eulogize and we don't fast. So Hanukkah is a special day. So we have a lot of halachot. We light the candles. We don't give eulogies. We don't fast. So the question is why? What is the main reason that the Breita, right, Mishnah material gives for Hanukkah? And this is the main idea that the Mishnah gives. When the Syrian Greeks came into the Beit HaMikdash, they defiled all of the oils. And gavra malchut Beit Hashmonai, but when the Hashmonaim overcame the Syrian Greeks and won, right? Remember, the language here is very specific. Not only did they overturn, they also won. Now you have to understand why the Mishnah is using, the Breita is using that language. Because the war was 3 years. It was a very long time. And in the beginning, the Hashmonaim captured a lot of Yerushalayim, captured a lot of Judea, and fought back the Syrian Greeks. But their one stronghold was the Beit HaMikdash. So the last place that the Hashmonaim captured was the Beit HaMikdash. And they wanted to capture the Beit HaMikdash because the whole war was about the Syrian Greeks defiling the Beit HaMikdash and defiling Jewish law. And really undercutting all of the laws that Bnei Israel were keeping to identify as Jews. And that made them unique. So that language is very important. It was a process. So when they go into Beit HaMikdash, they have two choices. Really, this war was about a Beit HaMikdash. They could have left the Beit HaMikdash. They captured everything around and be happy. Why sacrifice and really try to capture Beit HaMikdash? Because that's the symbol of the whole war. It was a war for religious purposes, to recapture the Beit HaMikdash, to have religious freedom. This whole war was about religious freedom, different than Purim. Purim was about physical continuity. It was about survival, physical survival. Hanukkah is about spiritual survival because they wanted the Jews to stay alive. They just wanted them to be detached from their Jewish law, to totally accept the outside Hellenistic culture completely without being unique and segregationist in the sense of keeping their unique Jewish laws, being monotheistic. So when they go into the Beit HaMikdash, halachically, they could do two things. They can use any kind of oil because we have this concept called Tumah B'tzibur. If you have to do something for the public, for the tzibur, then you could do it in the most practical, minimal way. You need oil, right? We saw the Bluzhever Rebbe because that was really unusual circumstances. There's no shemen zayit zach, there's no pure olive oil in the concentration camp. But instead of saying, oh, there's no olive oil, we're not going to light, you do what you got to do. The light of the Hanukkah candles is so important, shoe polish could be used. We try shemen zayit zach. We're in very cushy, happy times today. But then they don't rely on that heter, on that leniency. Badku velo matzu ela pach echad shel shemen shaya munach bechotamo shel kohen gadol. We all know this. Why do they look all over to find this one cruse of oil that the kohen gadol had his seal on? Why not just use anything? They could have done anything. And why take the risk that it's only going to light one day? Because the theme of Hanukkah is maximalism. And I want to acknowledge Rav Rosensweig, or Rav Michal Rosensweig, for this phrase. It's about doing the maximum. It's about doing the most that you could do. Even if you're taking a chance that the menorah won't be lit all these days from this oil, but you want to start off in the best way possible. You want to start off with this message that we are going to do the best. And that's why Hanukkah is about mahadrin mina mahadrin. And we try to find olive oil. And we all do it in the highest way. Even if we light candles, we're still all doing mahadrin mina mahadrin. It's about trying to be excellent. It's about trying to do the maximum that you can do and not the minimum. But it was a miracle that this cruise of oil, so you could say, oh, they're doing the minimum. They're just having a cruise of oil just for one day. They had to make a choice. Are we thinking just about lighting the menorah? Or do we want to show our goal was to do it in the most pure way, in the most ideal way? Because of this miracle, the next year, Asa'um Yamim Tovim Behalel Behoda'ah. Because of this miracle, Bnei Israel established this event, this miracle, and said Hallel, and also thanksgiving, thanked Hashem. And in Al Hanisim, when we say Al Hanisim, we always say it in the bracha of Modim. I mean, connected to the section of Modim. Because it's about Hoda'ah, thanking, and it's also connected with Nodelacha in Birkat HaMazon, and we say Hallel all the days of Hanukkah. It's about thanksgiving. We fought the war. We did our maximum, and God helped us in the war, and God showed us through this miracle that our efforts were really seen as something positive. This partnership between us and Hashem. Many people say, oh, the Gemara doesn't mention the war. It absolutely does. It also mentions the miracle of the Pach Shemen, because the Pach Shemen, the lighting of the menorah, and the miracle with the menorah is God's acknowledgement the war was the right thing. Looking for the best oil is the right thing. Trying to be maximal is the right thing. Doing your utmost is the right thing. And that's why we celebrate Hanukkah with the utmost. Mahadrin mina mahadrin. So again, the theme is the best, the maximum, but what is the means? The means is light, fire. They lit the menorah the miracle was with the menorah. Even though the war was so important, and we speak about the war very often on Hanukkah, but the war led to this spiritual idea, which is all about the menorah, the fire. The war helped us reach this spiritual goal. Look at Rashi. Rashi, commenting on the Gemaras that we just read, Rashi's explaining, ner ishu beito, one candle every night. V'ish v'chol b'nei beito, sagi lehu b'ner echad. Rashi is explaining to us, the whole family can rely on one candle. As long as you have one candle radiating light, dissipating the darkness, one candle's enough. But what's mahadrin? And what does mahadrin mean? Achara mitzvot. You want to do the halachot in the most mahadrin way, in the most special way, mihudar. Osin ner echad b'chol layla lechol echad v'echad mibnei habayit. You light a candle for every member of the household. That's mahadrin min mahadrin. So we see Rashi is explaining what the Gemara is saying. But Rashi adds, why does it tell us to light the candle outside? Because the Brisa just says, light the candle outside. Why do you light the candle outside? So Rashi explains, Mishum Pirsume Nisa. What's one of the most important things about Chanukah? Radiating the light outward, talking about the miracle to the public, not just to the family members, which is of course important, and that's the basic, but also to let others know of the miracle. And that's why Hanukkah candles have to be lit in a time when people are walking outside, so other people could see it. Of course, the minimum at home, just for the family members. But ideally, we always try to do it when people are outside. For Pirsume Nisa, we're radiating our light outward. And Rashi asks, why do we call Chanukah Yamim Tovim B'Halel V'Hoda'ah? If we use the phrase Yamim Tovim, it might make us think Isra Malacha. We can't do the Melacha that we're not allowed to do on Chagim. Is it similar to Shabbat? Is it similar to the Chagim? And Rashi explains no. So what does it mean, Yamim Tovim? What does it mean we make it special days? The special, unique character is, of course, lighting the menorah, and also Hallel, which we add in davening, and also Hoda'ah. Because remember, lighting the candles is in the home. It's not a davening thing. So what in prayer, what in davening helps us make this a unique day? Thanking Hashem and praising Hashem. So again, Rashi is really emphasizing to us that what's unique about Chanukah, whether it's in Birkat Hamazon or davening, is this Hallel v'Hoda'ah. And Rashi explains, because why do we do Hallel and Hoda'ah on Chanukah? Because that's what Chanukah is all about. Shelo nikbeu ela likrot Hallel v'nomar ala nisim b'Hoda'ah. Rashi is so bold to say, what's the main thing of Chanukah? Hallel, praising Hashem, and thanking Hashem. So what are Nerot Chanukah about? It's remembering the miracle. It's praising Hashem. It's thanking Hashem. It's all those ineffable things. It's not, I am doing an action that has a physical activity to it. On Purim, it's very physical. We eat. We have a big Seudah on Purim. We read the story of the Megillah. That's more spiritual, but the Seudah is very important. Mishloach Manot is very central in Purim. But on Chanukah, everything is spiritual. Lighting candles is a spiritual thing. You're lighting light. And then that's what's left. The wick or nothing, but you had light. What is Hallel? You're praising Hashem. What is Hodah? Ala Nisim? You're thanking Hashem. It's a very spiritual holiday. And that's what's so interesting about it, because there is no obligation to have a meal on Hanukkah. We make it into parties. We elevated, right, the food aspect on Hanukkah, but originally there's no halacha about a mitzvah of Seudah. If you eat, you say Al Anisim, but you don't have to have a Seudah. But all other holidays, you have to have a Seudah. And even Yom Kippur, many of us, right, our minhag is to do 2 major meals Erev Yom Kippur to make up for the 2 meals that you're missing of Yontif on Purim, on Yom Kippur. So what we see here, again, is very important. Spiritual maximalism. We do Mahadrin min Mahadrin. Today, we eat sufganiyot. We give presents, right? We eat latkes. But really, Hanukkah is all about spirituality. Hanukkah is one of the most spiritual holidays in the days when it's dark, in the days when it seems like winter is here. It's oppressive. Times are difficult. We make our own spirituality and we don't have props. We have the candles, but we don't have meals. We don't have Isur Malacha. We don't have the forbidding of Malacha. So Hanukkah is about us using our inner light and making it into a spiritual day, making sure that through the lighting candles, through Hallel, through Al Hanisim, we remember thanking God, praising God, bringing the light. So Hanukkah actually is a very spiritual holiday. It's a way for us to bring spirituality into mundane. Life's mundane, life's very physical. Hanukkah brings the spiritual into mundane, and it's 8 days, very long. It's a whole week plus of bringing spirituality into the mundane. Purim's a day, but Hanukkah is 8. It's a whole unit plus of bringing this spirituality. So there's the debate. What's Mahadrin min Mahadrin? So the Rambam, right? This is the Rambam. The Rambam says, you know what Mahadrin min Mahadrin is? That there's a candle for every member of the family, but also we show the lights every day. We move up for every single member of the family. So one view of the Rambam is that we have a candle for everybody that goes up and down, and only up, right? Because we're only going up. Malim Bakodesh, we do Hillel, but changes for every member of the family. What's the idea? The Rambam says we have a menorah. Let's talk about it as a menorah. People will understand it better. That we have a menorah for men and for women are represented. And in the first day, every menorah has 1 candle. Every menorah has 2 candles, second day. Every menorah has 3 candles, the third day, representing every single person in the family. Because according to the Rambam, there has to be representation for every single person with this fire. And not just that we stay static. For every single person in the family, we have to show that the numbers go up. Ashkenazim do this. Every single member of the family lights a menorah, whether men or women, but in many situations, in some families, the girls don't light. In some families, once you're married, you rely and you're included with your husband. But the idea is that everybody's represented. Every member of the family is represented, every person in the home, and every person is represented by spiritual elevation, Malin Bakodesh Velo Moridin. That's what the Rambam says he thinks is the ideal. But he says locally, there's always just one person, right, that lights for everybody in the house, even though his idea is everybody lights a menorah. And really what happened is the Ashkenazim took the view of the Rambam and have everybody light a menorah, and the Sfardim continued with the regular minhag of Sfard that 1 Menorah represents the whole family. So let's just reiterate. Sephardim, their view is that the head of the household lights a menorah that represents everybody in the family, because it represents everybody in the family, and one person lights a menorah. And you start with 1 and you end with 8 the last day. Ashkenazim, the minhag is that every member is represented by a menorah. Also women, also kids, light, even though sometimes they're very young and it's only chinuch lemitzvot, but that became the minhag. Even in Ashkenazim, some girls don't light and some women don't light because they are included with their husbands. But the idea is that everyone's represented somehow, either by the husband lighting for the wife, or the girls are represented by the father, head of the household. Sephardim, there's only one person representing and lighting a menorah, but we all do 1 the first day and 8 the last day. So again, the idea is representation of the people, radiating the light, being represented. So what about us as women? And I end with talking about the women in Hanukkah. We see we're included in all the halachot. Look at the Gemara. Gemara Shabbat, Daf Kaf Gimel Amud Aleph. The view is Isha Vadai Madlika. A woman absolutely lights a menorah. We're totally obligated in Ner Chanukah. Because Rabbi Yoshua ben Levi said, Nashim chayavot b'ner Chanukah she'af hen hayu bo to'anes. We are obligated to light Hanukkah candles because we were part of the miracle. What does it mean to be part of the miracle? She'af hen hayu bo to'anes. According to the Balei HaTosfot, we have 2 different possibilities. One view is the Rashbam, that we were the individuals who made the miracle happen. Of course, when it comes to Purim, it's Esther. When it comes to Mitzrayim, Egypt, it's the righteous women. When it comes to Chanukah, the Rashbam says the famous story of Yehudit with Helifornis. And we also know Hannah and her 7 sons. And we know the women fought for their modesty, and the women fought to live a religious life. So there are 2 ways to see it. Are we the main people of the miracle? We made it happen. So of course we're obligated. We drink 4 cups of wine because we made Yetziat Mitzrayim happen. Women are obligated in all the halachot of Purim because we made it happen. Esther made it happen. Or the other view in Balei HaTosfot is that we were included. She Af hen hayu means we also were saved during this time period. So what is our message? And what does Chanukah mean to us? Chanukah is very special to the women because it's about the home. Chochmat nashim banta beita. Smart women build their home. Smart women make sure that the home is a place of light, that the community is a place of light, that people are light. And we are involved in Pirsume Nisa, in making sure that the miracle is known throughout, that the light is radiating outward. At Hanukkah, which is that special holiday of spirituality, women are obligated. Women might have been the ones, because of us, the miracle actually happened. But you can ask, aren't the men the ones who fought the war? Aren't they the ones who went into the Beit Mikdash and they were the ones who lit the menorah with the purified oil? So what role did the women have? The women, Yehudit was a heroine, but beyond that, it was the women who kept the religious standards high. And we are the ones who are seen as the religious standard bearers. We have this unbelievable spirituality. The women in Mitzrayim, they were the ones who had the emunah. Esther was not going to be pulled down. She was going to save Bnei Israel. On Chanukah, the women kept the religious standards. We have many stories of the women on Chanukah. and the women during that time. My mother tells many stories about the women during the Holocaust really having that kind of faith to have families and to move ahead and to make sure that everyone was saved, even in such a terrible situation. Without their emunah and without their actions, the Jewish community would not have been able to survive. So for us, the message is spirituality also is at home. The idea that Hanukkah, the most spiritual and non-physical holiday, surrounds and really involves the home, because the home is the place where we start the idea of education, of spirituality. And even when we're older and we don't have children at home, it's about us. It's about home. It's about spirituality. It's about our inner selves. It's about radiating that light beyond. It's about making sure that standards, that the idea of maximalism is really maintained throughout this whole time. So I just want to wish everyone, because we're in Kislev and Hanukkah is really around the corner, and even though this year we don't have Thanksgiving, right? We don't have Hanukkah on Thanksgiving, but it's kind of connected to Thanksgiving weekend. And we should look at Hanukkah in this way. It's not, of course, gifts are wonderful. Hanukkah gelt is wonderful. Sufganiyot are wonderful. Latkes are wonderful. Believe me, I do all those things. We have Hanukkah parties, and my specialty is sufganiyot. I do also make latkes, and I use my mother-in-law's recipe. But in our house, our specialty was sufganiyot. And yes, we give gifts. Yes, we do Hanukkah gelt. But most important is really to remember that Hanukkah is about maximalism. It's about spirituality. It's about bringing light into darkness. It's about bringing spirituality to the mundane. It's about participating fully in a spiritual life and thanking Hashem and praising Hashem for all the miracles that really happen in our life. Of course, for the miracle of Hanukkah, but also for the miracles that really happen every day, that we have to look at the darkness and see the positive and see that positivity and be ourselves that positive beacon of light. Pursuing Nisa, we have to advertise these things about God, but also about what our lives are about and the messages that we can really share with others. So I wish everyone a happy Hanukkah, a spiritual Hanukkah, and a time of great spiritual growth. Hatzlacha.
Thank you so much. Do we have a little time for questions if anyone has?
Absolutely.
Okay, so if anyone has a question, ask away.
Thank you. I found it very inspiring.
Okay, so I hope it'll help for us to think of Hanukkah in many different ways, which a lot of these are sources that we know, but it's always interesting to re-understand and redefine some of the important values and themes of Hanukkah, because sometimes it really gets lost in, let's say, a commercial blitz. But it's really also a very spiritual time period.
Does anyone else have any questions or comments?
Thank you. This was extremely informative and totally enjoyable.
I liked your delivery. It was very powerful.
Thank you very much. And I always enjoy, we've done this a few times in person and on Zoom or that other platform. Now we're all Zoomers. Cheryl was amazing. It took us a long time last time to get everything. Pat, this time Zoom, oh my gosh, right? We're all experts in working on Zoom. I'm actually happy to be a little bit in person in Stern, but public and these kind of classes, I think it's just such a great mechanism because people can participate wherever they are.
It's funny because we had talked about coming back in person. Talked about coming back in person, but we heard from a lot of people that they really like the Zoom medium. So we kept it here this way for now.
Right. For adult ed, I'm finding that the Zoom medium is really very useful and much more inclusive because everybody, wherever they are, can participate. On the other hand, when you're in person, you're there full body and you're totally focused on the shiur, and still it's a happening thing. But we're rolling with the punches, and I think that the Jewish community is doing a great job. And I want to thank Cheryl for organizing and being in touch with me, and for really always making sure that a lot of education is going on is in West Orange. And again, for us Nashim to be melumadot, to have connection with the sources and to learn the sources inside is very important, because this connects us to the message and the Menorah in such a strong way, where you see it. This is what it is. How does it speak to me? So thank you. And also for seeing it and doing it as a source-driven shiur.
Well, thank you. And thank you everyone for attending, and Shabbat Shalom and Hanukkah Sameach. Almost Hanukkah, so Hanukkah Sameach.
Right? We just have to get in that mindset. Thank you so much.
All right.
Thank
Good night,
you.
everyone.
Enjoy.
Thank you. Good night,
Thank
everyone.
you.
Okay, bye-bye.
Thank you very
Thank you
much.
so much. Excellent.
Good night.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. Thank you.